We are effective immediately. Welcome. This is our third episode of Triangulation Station. Today we are joined by the inimitable Eben, who is here with us today to talk about a lot of things. And yeah, I guess take it away. Introduce yourself. How are things going?
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. I was laid off with both of you, and kind of like strangely excited about it because we got assigned this project that we turned into effective immediately. So I was like, oh, I get to just full-time do stuff with two of my favorite people. Great. I don't have to pretend to do my other real job in between. So that's awesome. I made a switch. I did 12 years in education nonprofit before coming to Triple Byte and working with the two of you. So I've got 1 year in the startup and tech world, and I got really excited about it. And I was kind of like, the job on the way in was the building block for, I thought like, well, I'll take this job and then we see what bigger impact thing I could have. And so the layoff kind of has now I'm at a crossroads where I'm like, can I still get that second job I was angling for at a place that doesn't know me? Or do I have to start at a new first job somewhere? That's where I'm at right now.
Crossroads, great movie. That was a segue to my next question. For you, Mr. Dower, I've heard about your interview prep technique. It involves a bit of a dance party. Can you share with the people a little bit about how you get ready for an interview, specifically the dance party?
Yes. All right. So I have a dance party in my room with my headphones on, and all the family is all home because those are the rules. And I usually kick it off with Soulmate by Lizzo, and then I just let Shuffle take me wherever we're gonna go. And then with about like 5 minutes left, I like pause the music, I stretch, I assume they're gonna call me on time. When they inevitably don't, I look at a little more stuff. And then at some point deep enough, like if I get like 2 minutes or something in, which feels like forever, then I just start playing music again. I'm like, well, fuck it. It's going to come through my phone. So I don't need to turn this off like they're going to capture me. And that's my process. It works well for getting my energy up, which is sometimes helpful on those calls and sometimes turns out to have been really the wrong move for me.
Do you have like a core set of questions that you ask every company, or is that sort of more customized or organic?
Yeah. I probably do, and I'm asking almost none of them at this point because I've only at this point in the process, and we're at April 24th, and I started actively applying when we found out, like maybe the day after we found out, so March 11th. But at this point, I've only had a few intro calls, and the first several of those, I spent the entire call overperforming. And so even when they threw it over to me for questions, I threw it back. Like, I want to make, I've got a million questions I could talk to you all day, but I want to make sure I, hit on everything, touch on everything that you needed, which that's one I always do. At some point, I just like want to save some of the time they gave me to make sure, if there was anything else that they wanted to ask me about that we didn't cover. But yeah, at this point, like I haven't been scrutinizing the opportunities at all. I've just been trying to get a second round. In the past, when I've gotten there, and say like for Triple Byte, for example, I was interviewing 2 companies. So I had a lot of questions. I wanted to get a really good read on the manager. That was really important to me, coming from my last role where that was a complicated thing. And so I would just pick their brain, like, what's hard? What's the thing that you need help with? What is the big challenge right now, like on the team? As we grow, what is the thing, so I try to get like a sense of them, and I want to see how they think and what they worry about and whether they trust me enough to talk to me like a peer. And then I don't know, like really, there are these things I should ask, and to be honest, I just haven't even thought about them because I don't feel like I've had it's like I haven't given myself permission to think that far ahead. As if I had choices and I was going to vet them. I feel more stuck, like I'm begging for them to choose me.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I think that there's something that maybe this is just across multiple conversations that we've all had about this, but it seems like there's sort of this kind of tension between what is like the right thing to do in an interview and what actually happens, or at least some like bridge of reality, like between reality and what we can prepare for. What do you learn from that, and how do you want to move forward?
Yeah. I mean, I think the big thing for me was the thing that got me unstuck. So I was overperforming, and I knew I was overperforming, and I couldn't do anything about it. Like what I did the first call, and then I went back and I was like, God, that was terrible. I knew the whole time and then I couldn't think the rest of the way. Even the stuff I prepared that I wanted to make sure I said, I like looked at the notes and I didn't even see it, and then I said something else, and it was worse. But then I just what I did with that was I tried to then like prepare more the next time, and then it wasn't better or worse. It was the same, but I felt worse about it. And so it wasn't until I actually had an informational call with somebody who had reached out to me first, that it just like built my confidence back up. That I'm like, oh, I'm actually an interesting person. And when and then we had a conversation. When we had a conversation about what they need, like what do they see out of the role? How's the team doing? What is, what do you think is a big challenge? Like what, stuff like that. And so I learned about like the people on the team and their names and how they like to work. And so we did this whole thing. And then I remembered that like, oh, if I can provide value. I think this kind of came up in yours, Chris. So it's like, if you tell me what the challenges are, then that's going to give me context for what to say to you. Yeah. And so I think the big thing that helped me was like just realizing, oh, I need that a lot. I don't know how to get there where they give me what their problem is. What is your problem? But that's where I feel like I shine. And then I don't even need the prep there. I'm just pulling in relevant examples because it's helpful in that situation.
Well, what to you is overperforming, or what does that mean, or what does that look like to you?
It feels like I know I'm lying about my qualifications for this position, and my job is to make sure that they don't realize that. And my job is also to convince them that my experience is relevant, even though it's not under the same job title, and that my skill set is there. So I put all of the burden on myself to convince the stranger that I can't see. This has also all been phone calls that I can't see that I'm the best person for this job. And I lose the entire part of my brain that judges, them. And like, what do I want this? What even is this? I'm pulling too many different examples at once on some easy questions, on the hard questions. And then the easy ones, I'm like, I don't know where to start. And then I can't think. And so then I become aware that I can't think. But that's what's happening internally. I'm still giving some show of a thing, but now I'm just like freaking out internally. And so I've gone from 5 minutes before, like in a good headspace, like feeling really excited. I kind of like, I guess part of my prep too is like, I try to fall in love with the job. Like I've tried to fall in love with the company, try to fall in love with the job, try to even the stuff that like probably sucks about it that I would hate, like, okay, what's this role's opportunity to impact what I hate about this? Like that would be cool. That would feel fulfilling. But so then I spend the whole call, they're like, why, tell me about this. And I'm like, there's 50 million things that might relate to that. Like, as if I just spat out like the top 10 search results from my resume or something.
Right. I have a question, because this context of an interview in this current time, when you consider the layoffs and everything else going on in the world, very challenging. What's a social situation that's not an interview that you find yourself utilizing that part of yourself that is the overperformer, but in the right way?
Just like thinking of like some of the meetings that we had, that would seem to go in the wrong direction or whatever. Maybe there's a theme that's not getting addressed, and there's tension, but we're not going to stop and like actually hold space for the real tension. And so I think, I think there's that. I think there's like some degree of like, all right, I will take care of the room, and facilitate the process of either like making it safe for people to speak up or naming something in a way that may feel really more threatening for somebody else. And you know, just knowing that I'm gonna have a different angle and a whole other set of privilege to be able to maybe pull that off.
You're a charismatic guy. Like, when does his charisma not get the best of him? And I was like, I wonder if he's curious of when his charisma is like an ally rather than an enemy. So the facilitator thing, but the power dynamic is different in an interview. We've talked about that a little bit. It's not your call to run. So there's something about control in there that I'm not really able to articulate right now. But basically, even if you could, at your own workshop, give people the space to feel safe enough to speak up or like address things that are going on. I'm wondering why in an interview, even with the power dynamics different, what makes it impossible to not apply those same kind of principles just to an interviewer?
I mean, on like an intellectual level, it's not. I think one of the hardest parts for me, the public speaking and facilitation, the thing that they have in common is I can see the room.
Yeah.
I can see the room. And when I show up to do an interview and walk in the building, I've got my prep, I've got my notes, but I'm going to do 17 million little things. If I'm in a good space, if my energy is in the right place, I'm in the right mindset, I'm going to do like 17 million little things all throughout the process that help me feel good and may translate. I don't know what they're going to notice or not, but may translate to, you know, to getting a job offer, moving on to the next round or whatever. But even if it's not, at least all these different little people are going to like me. They're going to have had a positive experience. And so it's things like I've like already had a full-on conversation with the security guard. I've like pointed out some other dynamic. I helped fix somebody's like the thing wasn't plugged in right. You know, all these like little things I like, you know, little caretaking and trying to be a good host still. I can do that in person. And I can't, you know, yeah, I should be able to still do that on phone. It would probably be helpful for me and for them, but it's scary. I think I would feel a lot different if I was talking to schools and educators, because or some if I knew something, if I like, because I think they think it's zero, like, you know, that they're valuing it at zero.
I don't know if that's it. I remember when you went into that room of those people who were underpaid, under enthusiastic, didn't give a shit about the training that you had to provide, and you got those people to engage on such a deep level that they shed tears. You went in there trying to convince them that what you had to do was important. On these calls, you're going and they're trying to convince them that what you've done is important. I don't know if that's it. Really.
I knew, yeah. I mean, you're onto something. I think in that situation, in those workshops, I knew that I had something to provide and that I could take care of them. And so on some level, I don't think I know that about some of these jobs.
I think to buoy some of your skills, I want to kind of add a bit of a +1 to your facilitation skills, which I think translate to and really around holding space and reading the room. It is rare to see someone who can really read a room the way that you do. And I want to help you to try and like channel how you kind of practice allyship in facilitation and in a workspace in person into the value, or a big part of the value that you can bring to an organization, and how do you think about kind of helping that shine in an interview space? It's like not usually in a job description.
Yeah, that'd be great. If you can help me do that, that'd be awesome.
Community
Which I feel like will happen. I'll be nervous about different things. I feel like that will happen further down the line. Like, I'm struggling so hard. I was like, for this Reddit interview, I was like, hey, I know it was an L&D role. They want 3 years, and they like the job description said, yeah, you should facilitate stuff. But then the recruiter was like, actually, no, there's going to be no facilitation. You're going to figure out if we choose a vendor or whatever. You're going to do systems. It's a systems job. And I was like, oh, whoops. And toward the end, and this was, I was like begging and overperforming, doing all this stuff at the end, but I landed on a tangible ask. Nobody's taking me up on it, but like, give me the take home. Like, I'll show you how I think. But obviously there's a time commitment on their part to like process that stuff. So they would want to feel confident enough to move people through. They're not just going to give that to everybody or whatever. But that's where I'm like itching to show people how I would think. But right now I can't get to the past where I tell them what I've done.
Hmm.
But it's because you're hung up on what you've done not being a one-to-one match to what they're looking for. And the issue that I have is like, it really is the same concepts and the same skills, but just in different words. You almost just don't know like the industry jargon that is how they explain the thing that you do.
Yes.
I think that like you were watching the HRBP training video the other day, if you just took those little keywords and buzzwords and you just put that in to what you did at Head Voice and what you did at Triple Byte, and we could do that in 5 minutes. We don't have to do that right now, but I'm just saying, if you started to speak their language, I think the big thing for me it's coming up for me right now is like, it's kind of like you would benefit from moving the goalposts in an interview. Like you go in and they love you. You do the rapport thing so well, but once that's done, you almost have to feel that out and use your skills to read the room and then just throw it out the window. Stop. You can only impress somebody so much. You can only connect so much before it's then time to move on to the next thing. And it's almost like you just do that one thing the whole time, and there's chains in a link that are after that have to come in the interview. And it's almost like give yourself the first 5 minutes to just do that chain, to build the rapport, to hey, I'm a community builder. It's kind of hard for me to show you that on a phone interview. I'd love to have a take-home site, whatever the hell it is, but then you got to shift your tactics to focus on something else, because I think right now it's just over-focused on this thing that you're probably already doing well enough for them to like you, but at a certain point it's like, "Me think the lady doth protest too much," kind of thing. Like you had them at hello. Your speaking voice is really powerful. You have the kind of voice that disarms people as soon as you start talking. So it's almost like you could just try to not do this the whole time, or focus on the other links. There's no question or comment in there, but
that's real. I mean, as I was listening to you say that, I'm sitting here reflecting on it, and I think part of why I put time into that is because it feels familiar and tangible and like something I can do well.
Mm-hmm.
So then I ace the part that, to your point, is probably going to just happen anyway, just by the back and forth of the phone call. And now I feel like, okay, and for the rest of this call, I will attempt to pull a magic trick where I convince you that, I don't know, stuff. I'm like, I could do this. I don't know. Some of the questions are like around some of the HRBP stuff or the training stuff. I'm like, I don't know really how to tell you that this is very easy for me. Like, if you want me to tell you which like programs and projects I've led, like that, I could use context there, or else you're just going to get a laundry list of stuff, because that's what all my jobs have been. Like, that's how I work. So watching that video did help me, unfortunately. And I got the like buckets of stuff, and then but I sent it to them after they already rejected me. So I did it as prep for the second call.
You don't like too much process. You don't like scripts. If I said, "Eben, go into a call and do this whole thing, say this whole thing," I think you would be very bored by that. I think something you could benefit from is letting your interviewer kind of choose their own adventure. Like, hey, I've done a ton of projects. They're in this bucket, that bucket, and that bucket. Which ones would you like me to focus on?
Yeah.
Yeah, I want us to treat this like the bullpen. I don't want you to get your. It's like we're talking about a new version of your swing right now.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a baseball player, and I don't want you to take your first hack in a game against a major league pitcher throwing 90 miles an hour of an interview. So
what am I doing?
Oh yeah, so we wanted to try it. We want to see if we can make this behavior change right now. So if I was, who was a company you really liked? I don't care if you're still active.
I got one. Apple is coming up soon. Still, they have a bunch of training roles, and I'm very excited about that one. There's even ones I could definitely do.
Cool.
And I have an insider who has a very similar background to me, but he's been doing it for a few years. But
Cool. So we want you to do the things that we're talking about all rolled into one. So Chris has been talking about asking your interview question, and you've been really wanting to get the right context before you give them the thousands of search results that come up for you. So I just want to try as if I'm this person from Apple, and I'm just going to say, Eben, great. Tell me about the stuff that you've done. You know, we've already got past the niceties of like, tell me about yourself, tell me about the role. And you now have to either give them a laundry list or do something that gets you more context in a way that feels authentic to you. All right, man. Yeah, it's really nice to hear about yourself a little bit. And as you know, you know what the role is. So tell me a little bit about the relevant projects that you've done and just how you think they would fit into this kind of role for Apple.
yeah, it's a great question. I'm realizing like I have such kind of a varied buckets of experience here. I think probably the most relevant one is the 3 years of training. So I could tell you more about that. I also have 5 years of management experience as a director level. And then more recently, 1 year in a startup world. So maybe you could let me know which one you'd like me to start with or which one feels most relevant for you.
You don't like doing that, do you?
No, I like that one. I like the framework.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, the part, the only hesitation I'm having right now is I'm making up the context, which is part of the problem. No, those are, I mean, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I would choose more.
You mean the job context?
I would probably, yeah, like maybe for those Apple training-y ones, I would maybe give the strategy I like a lot. That really helps me. Even if they say both, I will still feel better because I breathed. I took a breath. I gave a question and took a breath before I started talking, really. So
yeah, you got
that's really helpful for me.
You can't just download a whole zip file in these things, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's an impossible task for you to answer that question, and it doesn't serve you to try.
To just try. Well, that really is one of the biggest things for me is I will try to think while I'm going. You know what I mean? Like I agree with you. I assess that question. It's like, ooh, this is I should figure out more which way to go.
Yeah.
But while my brain is doing that, my mouth is already going, well, you know, I've got for 17 million years of doing exactly what this job says, and I'll just tell you the name of each person that was in the room when I did that job, right. Exactly how you've written it.
Right. I think me and you both have our people pleasing levers turned all the way up, and I think the queen of pushback, Krista Lane, I think she would be a lot more informed to be how to do this gently, but also with enough force.
I was watching episode 2 because I was in the room and interviewing you, but I was like, I need that energy in my next one. Like what you're just saying right here, you're like, well, I was like, I want to do that.
Yeah. So. Well, okay. Maybe another way to think about it could be around getting back to how your informational calls are going. So, you know, you've described that informational calls for you are a way for you to get your confidence back, that you have a lot of opportunity to ask them questions and you feel comfortable doing so. So maybe there are ways to treat your interview like an informational call and make the tone feel more conversational. I know that both of you have hesitated to kind of let go control of the call, but I still think that there is some like maybe you just need to dial it back instead of letting it go entirely, because maybe not having any control is worse.
I'm trying to figure out how I do that. Maybe I just need to try. Maybe I just need to pick my next one that I don't love and just be like, my only mission is to not actually answer the first question until I feel good about what that question is, or I have enough context, or whatever. Just try and see what happens.
Yeah. Because I think like even just a clarifying question can help break the tension for that type of behavior, right? So even if I heard a question correctly, I might say, just to clarify, you're thinking about this in this term or this term, which both reveals something else that I know about that topic, but also confirms that they are asking the right question before I proceed, right? And then it kind of opens the door, like the way that they react to that also opens the door for how I might ask further clarifying questions throughout the process.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to say on this, your challenge, should you accept today, is to not wait for that interview. But we're going to keep asking you questions because we're interviewing you. And if you accept the
Oh, try to do it.
you're gonna gently push
Try to do
back
it live.
anytime for the rest of the call. That thing that Krista did yesterday, that you're like, wow, holy shit, do it.
That's why I
Whenever
was
you feel it.
amazed. I was like, here it is. Oh my God, it's happening
You
live.
You get to
Like,
do
will you sign my desktop?
Cool.
My face just right here on top.
What's something that you are really excited about next week?
I'm hoping that I can share out some of these interviews. It'll be really exciting to me. I'm having fun thinking about editing them, and I haven't gotten to, but yeah, I want to put some of these out. And what's really exciting about that to me is I want to see what other people would like to do. I mean, I guess part of this whole project of doing these interviews is I'm really excited to see what we do when we have a guest, and what happens for us, what happens for them, what type of thing we have that can be pulled out. So I'm really excited about that, you know, potentially moving forward and taking some steps to start to be a thing. And I'm just going to do a Kevin thing here and just speak it into existence. I am really excited about being glad about the progress that my job search will have taken by the end of last week.
You worked so hard for that progress.
Yeah, it's going to be great. I was really patient with, you know, Apple and a few of these other ones. And it was just like I said, I just needed to have a couple of phone calls to get to that second round. And so then that second round will be on the calendar somewhere. I'm very excited about that happening.
Good. That's awesome. Well, as is now our tradition, you get to sign us out, sign us off, whatever the way to describe that is.
You tell me.
I'm going to try it. Okay. Layoffs are hard. Everything is crazy. Let's take care of each other. We can do this.